Okay, hello everyone and welcome to the Basement Spring 2021 Innovation Sprints Showcase. I'm your MC, Tanvi Bajaj. I'm a second-year international business major at UCSD, and I was involved with Innovation Sprints last summer as part of the Converge 2020 Summer Showcase, in which I worked with the city of San Diego. First, before we begin, here's a quick land acknowledgement. The UC San Diego community holds great respect for the land and the original people of the area where our campus is located. The university is built on the unceded territory of the Kumeyaay Nation. Today, the Kumeyaay people continue to maintain their political sovereignty and cultural traditions as vital members of the San Diego community. We acknowledge their tremendous contributions to our region and thank them for their stewardship. First up, we have a few guest speakers, introducing Jason Tisco, who's Vice President for the Center for Education and Workforce of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Tanvi. And thank you for letting me be part of today's event. What I wanted to do is just provide some preliminary remarks to help kick things off and really provide some commentary about why an organization like ours is very interested in the work you all are doing. Just by way of a little bit of background, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is the world's largest business federation. We represent over 1,500 state and local chambers of commerce and collectively over 3 million firms, the vast majority of which are small to mid-sized enterprises, which make up the largest job creators. I'm here today representing our foundation side, which is our nonprofit affiliate, which houses our Center for Education and Workforce. And there we're engaging with communities all across the country to really elevate the employer leadership role in a wide variety of education and workforce initiatives. And we're really excited to see the types of community engagement and business engagement that the teams here today have been part of. So just thank you for being here, and I'll just jump right into it. You know, the message I wanted to bring you all today is that, you know, the world is changing, and with it the economy, and whether it's new technologies, demographic shifts, the impact of the pandemic, they've all radically transformed the labor market and how organizations conduct and do business. This has major implications then for talent and how talent is going to be able to compete and succeed in a dynamic labor market and economy. Companies now have an opportunity and a mandate to help facilitate this transformation and transition. Upskilling and reskilling done at scale is going to be an essential piece of our workforce strategy going forward, and it's going to help ensure that companies have access to the talent they need that they need to compete on, but will also make sure that they're helping workers stay competitive and productive in this new economy. What this means, though, is workers are going to have to be lifelong learners, adapting quickly to this change in dynamism so they can navigate opportunity. And essential skills such as problem solving, critical thinking, decision-making, creativity, these are going to be increasingly important to our workforce's long-term success. For our policymakers who are out there, reskilling and retraining the existing workforce is going to be an essential lever to fuel economic growth and recovery, as well as enhance societal resilience in the face of this change. It's also going to pave the way for future-ready education systems that are going to prepare the next generation of workers. In the United States today, we are in the midst of a skills gap, and this is a crisis where our labor shortages are now jeopardizing the economic recovery. This skills gap is only going to exacerbate this problem, and it's going to contribute towards critical positions necessary to our economic growth and potential. Those positions are going to go unfilled for longer periods of time. And more changes are coming. And dynamic labor markets are here to stay. They are the rule, not the exception. Automation, globalization, the fourth industrial revolution, and much more will all be contributors to this ongoing dynamism. And our challenge today is to really tighten up the connections between education and the world of work, and to make sure employers can easily partner with education institutions and access those students who want to immerse themselves early and often in potential careers. And a key piece of this will be providing students with authentic and immersive engagement opportunities where they can both engage and solve real world problems with employers as partners. I wanted to thank you all for the opportunity to be part of today's event and to help kick things off. And I wanted to wish all the teams who will be presenting today good luck. And with that, I will pass it back.
Thanks so much for that, Jason. Next up, we have Paul Robin, Associate Vice Chancellor for Innovation and Commercialization. Go ahead, Paul.
Cool, thanks very much. And thanks, Jason, by the way. We're doing some terrific work together at the university and Jason. So first of all, welcome everybody to this great event. Thank you all for coming. Thank you particularly to our community partners, without whom this wouldn't be possible, and to the student teams who you're going to hear from later on. Just by way of introduction from the university perspective, as a university, of course, we are fundamentally about education and research. And both of those are very well served by deep and broad community engagement. And the Chancellor has really challenged us all at the university to come up with new, creative, innovative ways to deepen and broaden that engagement with our community partners, whether that be government or industry or whoever, right? To the benefit of both the students and the researchers, but also so that we're bringing value to the community. And really acting as true partners in helping to develop the economy of our region, but also improving the quality of life of the people in our region, right? So that's really why I'm really excited about this particular program. Bringing together multidisciplinary teams of students to work on real world problems, as it were, provided by our community partners. It's just a win-win for everybody. I hope that it provides something of a unique experience for the students and helps them to develop the ability to work in teams towards a disruptive solution to a particular challenge. And in the process, hopefully they meet not only fellow students from across the campus, but also people from our community partners who may ultimately help them with their career development, right? But I also hope that it's really bringing value to our community partners, helping them to look at their challenges, possibly with a new perspective, hopefully helping them to develop new solutions to those challenges that they face, and possibly even helping them with their workforce development needs as well. So again, thank you to our community partners for joining us in this. Tell your colleagues in your own organizations, tell your colleagues, across the region. The university really wants to engage in this type of activity. It wants to scale it. It wants to broaden it. With the opening of our innovation building now in a couple of months, we will have a focal point on campus, which will act as a launching pad for students, but also as a portal for the community to access this type of activity on our campus. So I'm really looking forward to that. So please tell everybody that we're open for business. And lastly, good luck to the students who are going to be presenting. I've seen some of these presentations before. They really are terrific. And from what I gather, some of them are already being implemented with the community partners. So that in itself is an indictment of the success of the program. So good luck with your presentations and welcome everybody. And thank you all for coming. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Paul. Now, a little bit about innovation sprints. The program is a 2-quarter-long opportunity for teams of students to explore entrepreneurship, and the goal is to create disruptive solutions to real-world challenges. Below, you can see the names of some of the current and past sponsors and partners that the UCSD Innovation Sprints program has worked with. Okay, now up, we have the student presentations from the innovation teams. First, we have the San Diego International Airport team. Kimberly?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kim McLean. I'm the Manager of Customer Experience Design and Innovation at the San Diego International Airport. I'm here with a few other people from the San Diego Airport team. We wanted to say thank you to everyone for being here, and thank you to the students that we got to work with during this program. For our challenge, we asked the students to really think outside the box and find a way to grow commonly used produce inside the terminal spaces, inside our concourses, for the concessionaires to use, for our restaurants to use within their menus. So the idea was to reduce our carbon footprint, but also bring awareness to where our food comes from. This is really important to us as an airport and as a region. And it provides this interesting experience piece for passengers to kind of engage with and see really where their food is being grown. And then it's farm to table, but it's within the concourse straight to your table. We had given the students a truly Herculean task of taking research that had been done a couple of years ago from within our airport, updating it, finding new and creative ways to solve this challenge, because the biggest hurdle for us was that we had visited this topic internally before and we weren't able to move it forward. There are so many moving parts within an airport, and what we really, really needed was this fresh perspective, as Paul said earlier. We know that the UCSD students really emphasize innovative thinking within this program and creative strategies, and they bring a new thought process to a system because it's being able to look from the outside in, and that's really what we needed. So our hope was to be able to move the needle on this project by seeing it through those fresh eyes and that new perspective, and maybe, you know, with the hope that they could show us something that we were missing when we had done our previous research. And I'm really happy to say that the students did exactly that. Their research, their questions that they asked us, their suggestions, the variances that they showed us in the spaces and what we could and couldn't do really opened the door for us to be able to actually build this into our project list and advance it beyond a pilot. And so now our internal teams are talking about where do we put it long term, not just for a pilot, but how do we actually implement this for a long-standing project within the space, and that's a huge win for us. So I know they put a lot of time into this, and we wanted to say thank you to them. And with that, I'll turn it over to the student team.
Perfect. Up first, we have the Sandlings. A quick reminder for the audience, please submit any questions you have into the Q&A box in the chat function at the bottom of your screen. Okay, Sandlings, the floor is yours.
Hello, I'm Cameron Yenshi, and this is the project where we will go over the internal hydroponic garden for the San Diego International Airport. There you go. Here's our team. First off. Okay, we have Genevieve, we have Cameron, which is me, we have Anthea, Karen, and Emily. So the airport came to us with a problem, essentially asking us, how can the airport concessionaires reduce their carbon footprint in a way that is sustainable and healthy? So we took a look at the current status quo, and we found that current agriculture spends 10 times the amount of energy transporting the food than what's actually stored in the food. Additionally, it involves the heavy use of pesticides that are harmful to the local environment, especially when you can see we have runoff there. And we're essentially consuming toxic substances in the form of pesticides in small quantities over long periods of time. Certainly, it would be best if we could avoid this. So our objectives with the project was to be educating passengers about the future potential of hydroponic agriculture, support the airport's image at the cutting edge of sustainability, and enhance the value proposition of airport concessionaires, and of course, reduce the environmental impact of the airport. So the solution is to grow the airport's lettuce using hydroponics. Here we have two common systems, grow towers and grow walls. In hydroponics, plant nutrients are delivered by water through a closed loop system. The key advantages from this are that we use less water, more efficient use of space, and we can grow independent of the environment. So you can essentially grow wherever you want. And also we can produce healthier plants at a greater volume than traditional farming. So our project consists of the design of a sustainable, organic, in-terminal food source in the form of a hydroponic garden, and also the conduction of a feasibility study to research the location, logistics, and operational needs to build such a system. So what are the benefits of hydroponics? Hydroponics can grow with up to 92% less water than traditional growing methods. And we use less water because we're essentially recirculating the water and we're not having any runoff or any evaporation loss to the ambient environment. And since there's greater control over the nutrients and growing conditions, plants can be grown in their optimal conditions for growth the entire time. This allows for shorter growth cycles and more nutrient-dense crops. So the goal is to essentially reduce CO2 emissions by reducing the number of distribution trucks that are going to the airport. And we do this by essentially growing within the airport. We reduce the need to transport completely. So lettuce traditionally that's used at the airport originates from the Salinas Valley, where it takes over a 400-mile journey and through various distribution channels to the airport. At an average of 150 grams of CO2 per ton of freight per kilometer on a semi, this makes out to be 142 grams of prevented CO2 emissions per year by growing our lettuce in the airport. As you can see, growing lettuce using traditional methods and distribution channels is 67% more expensive than growing hydroponically. Our system can produce 1,664 heads of lettuce per year for a total cost of $1,400. This same amount of lettuce would cost approximately $2,500 using traditional farming methods. This amounts to a total cost savings of over $1,000. And then here are the design requirements for our hydroponic system. As you can see, we obviously need water, power, we need to actually have lighting, grow media, and in certain circumstances, we actually need to germinate the seeds. So these are all the things we had to take into account when designing. And here's a few of the systems that we considered initially. This is what is known as a horizontal grow beds, and it's called nutrient film. Essentially, the water flows through with nutrients and it's recirculated constantly, and it's only making contact with the roots of each plant. And then this is what is known as a vertical grow wall. Essentially, it's the same process as the horizontal wall, except that you're growing vertically and you're using gravity to distribute the nutrients and water through the root system. But ultimately, we came up with using vertical grow towers. And this was out of consideration of trade-offs with what we can achieve aesthetically versus the cost and yields and the ease of implementation. So what really set this system apart is that we're able to design something that is highly visible to passengers and is most cost efficient. And primarily, the most important area of consideration that we had to in making this decision was leveraging products that were already on the market. So it's something we could put together really fast as a pilot. And this system is actually able to grow 96 plants in a custom built enclosure. So I guess, as you can see, we have 3 grow towers here. And then this is a top-down view. We have 4 systems of lights, and then we have a plexiglass shield. And for our total cost, we have $2,300. And this would include 3 towers, a lighting system, a computer equipment in order to schedule the lighting and water distribution. And then, of course, we have an outer enclosure and the proper nutrients required. And this is the final location we came up with. This is actually in Terminal 2, right next to the Be Relaxed in Terminal 2 with the Stone Brewery and the PGA Tour right to the right of what this picture is showing. And of course, we can see it right here on the map. And this is what the system would look like within the space we're considering. Some key numbers to remember is that there's 600,000 approximately passengers in this space before COVID, of course. And that for using hydroponics, we can get approximately 277% increase in yield, crop yield. And then of course, the cost of our project as $2,300. So some key takeaways from this project is that we needed to stay open to different design paths and remain flexible as what we understood about this project changed, what was required from the airport, and really what we could deliver within the time frame. And so we learned that it's very valuable to start simple, to start small, and then build from there. So we had to manage, and additionally, we had to manage many different stakeholders and opinions because obviously the airport has a lot of moving players and factors to consider. Of course, we have security, we have who's managing it. There's a lot of things to consider. So it really helped us gain experience in synthesizing all these different desires and design requirements. And so for our next steps is prior to the pilot, which is planned roughly at the end of the year when the funding is available for the airport, we intend on developing a maintenance schedule, how we're going to distribute the produce to the concessionaires, and of course, secure potential sponsorships. And then finally, once the funding is available, a permanent installation. And of course, a special thank you to the San Diego team, Heidi, our mentor, and of course, Jack. Any questions?
Hi, Cameron. I can start us off with some questions. I was wondering if you could do this program over again, what would you do differently?
We could start this over. It would be to not become attached to any particular solution, because as the requirements for the project change and you gain a better understanding of what is possible, it doesn't serve you to become like emotionally attached to what you first might have thought and might have been the solution. So you have to be ready to pivot at any moment.
Thank you. Okay, we have another question now. How will you message this idea to passengers?
So part of the current plan is to essentially set up a placard with the renderings and some information about the project in the space that we're considering for the pilot.
Why would you grow just one tower at the airport? What impact will these approximately 90 heads of lettuce have on the overall annual volume needs of the concessionaires? What impact would 100 towers have?
Well, of course, we would like to go with 100 towers right off the bat, but this project was mainly tasked to us as being a pilot. So it's more of a proof of concept. So with the 3 towers that we're considering, we just wanted to prove that we can produce in the airport effectively and that the concessionaires will be happy using the stuff we produce.
Were there any other produce items considered for this project?
Of course, we considered herbs, we considered spinach and other types of leafy greens, which are good candidates for hydroponics. In fact, some of the concessionaires actually asked us for tomatoes, but we did the math on what would be essentially the most bang for our buck for that space in a pilot, and we came upon lettuce.
Are other airports also exploring these options?
Yes, as far as I'm aware, there's the O'Hare Airport that has already implemented a hydroponic system, though it differs quite significantly from ours. But other than that, we're quite on the leading edge for hydroponic systems within terminals.
And last question. Is the 277% increase in yield number mentioned the net of projected maintenance costs?
That yield number is based off of the effective growing area in terms of what's on the floor versus what we're able to get in terms of grow area vertically. So you have to counter the circumference of each tower versus what space is taken up on the ground. And if you're to compare that versus traditional farming, because you have to consider the spacing between crops, that was able to yield quite a significant increase.
Wonderful. Okay, now we'll move on to the next team, which works with the city of Chula Vista. Thank you so much, Cameron. For a quick overview, we have Dennis Kagunka.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dennis Kagunga. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer. I'm responsible for managing the environmental services team, the conservation group, and I also help coordinate our smart cities across the city. One of the main things that we did was we adopted a smart city strategic action plan, which is serve as our roadmap. And as part of that, we determined or articulated that one of our major goals is to be a more open and transparent city. And that to essentially be more focused in ensuring that we're making city data more available to the public, and that we're using data and analytics to help increase public access as well as improve our city operations and services. To support that effort, the city launched a data governance committee in 2019, and the data governance committee has been leading those efforts. And as part of that is trying to gauge what direction we're heading in terms of trying to prioritize what we should do. So we as a city identified a huge opportunity to be able to work with a partner, in this case, UCSD. And our challenge statement revolved around reviewing existing data sets for specifically our development services department, in accordance with some standards that this group had developed, and looking for ways to portray those in a user-friendly and a graphical way, as well as analyzing our existing policies and identifying areas of opportunity to improve the city's open data efforts. So the team of students have done a stellar job in terms of, one, getting a quick understanding of the existing policies, working and building relationships with respective departments, and helping us to get a better understanding in terms of best practices, what's out there, and developing a very clear approach in terms of how we're going to get from the project start to our end goal, which is that deliverable. So I'd just like to applaud them for their efforts. They've already presented to multiple groups. As I mentioned, one of the groups that they presented to was the Data Governance Committee a couple of weeks ago. And we're hoping next month for them to give a presentation to our Smart Cities Working Group, which is a group that I help coordinate, that consists of city manager, deputy city managers, police and fire, as well as department heads. And with that, I'll hand it over to the students, and they can share some more specifics on the project.
For sure.
Go ahead, Team Random Variables.
I will start screen sharing soon. So hello, everyone. My name is Esther, and I'm a data science student at UCSD.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ted. I'm a second-year applied math major at UCSD.
Hi, everyone. I'm Justin. I'm a freshman anti-climate major at UCSD.
We are part of UCSD The Basement's Innovation Sprints program for the Chula Vista Open Data Project, and it's an honor to present this project today.
Our overarching goal for this project is to help the City of Chula Vista's data governance team carry out their open data program, help the team and the government to publish the data in a format that can be easily understood by the public. To narrow down our scope, we specifically worked with a building permit data set provided by the Development Services Department. And our final product is a public webpage with user-friendly dashboards for Chula Vista's building permit data. In order to accomplish that, we must figure out what data can be made public. Personal information like names, specific addresses, or other information that may violate anyone's privacy are excluded from our analysis or dashboard. And then we also research on other cities' open data policy and portals like that of San Francisco, New York City, Denver, and see how they present their data. And if there is anything that they did really well, we can learn from. For example, the city of Denver presents its permit information in a clean infographic, which is very simple and straightforward to understand. With this in mind, we want to present our data in a comprehensible dashboard. Another thing we need to learn before moving forward is Power BI. It is a powerful visualization tool from Microsoft. It is able to create all different kinds of interactive graphs, bar charts, line charts, tables, maps, and so on. It was commonly used in other departments within the city as well.
Our product goal is to transform massive tabular data sets into user-friendly, informative dashboards for the general public. To achieve this goal, we had to overcome some obstacles and challenges. First of all, what are people interested in knowing? What information are people looking for? To find out, we searched up the keyword permit data analysis and perused the top analytic websites, then gathered the questions people are interested in. This step is important because we must identify the data fields needed to answer each question, so the DSD representative, Connie, knew what data to pull for us. After we received the dataset, we cleaned the dataset by removing duplicate or unnecessary rows, adding useful columns, and standardizing value names. Cleaning the dataset has significantly improved the quality of our tables and graphs.
Based on our user research, we decided to make a total of 5 dashboards. The first dashboard is for estimated review time, where the public can look for the average review time for permit applications based on permit subtype. We also have one dashboard for new residential construction, one for commercial, which are 2 of the most popular permit applications. And we also have one for other types of applications. Thus, it is easier for people to find the information they need. And the last dashboard is for business analysis. We'll talk more about details of each dashboard in the demo. In order to help the public find the information they need, we wanted to make the dashboard interactive. And one powerful tool from Power BI is slicers. With slicers, we can filter the data in any way we want. For instance, if someone wants to know about new condo permit applications, he or she can just select new condo checkboxes on the right, and the information on the dashboard will change accordingly. And we'll
Hello, Ted, you muted yourself.
Hello, is it? Can you guys hear me? Oh, we can just, after we finish editing the dashboard, we can just export the Power BI dashboard into an iframe element, and that DSD representative could just embed it into the web page. Now, Esther will navigate to Chula Vista's permit data webpage. We have 5 interactive dashboard on here for the years 2018 to 2020. You can select different filters to answer a wide variety of questions. For example, a homeowner who wants to apply for an apartment remodel permit might ask, what is the estimated application fee for remodeling an apartment? We can just select the corresponding subtypes. And as you can see, the average application fee is around $1.4 thousand. And on the other hand, a real estate developer might want to know how many units of new apartments have been issued in zip code region 91913. You can just select the corresponding zip code. And you can see the number of new units issued is 847. And a solar panel installation business might go to the business analysis dashboard to find out what are the most popular service providers for solar panel installation in the zip code regions 91910 and 91911 in the year of 2020. We can just select a corresponding zip code and year, and the top service providers will be displayed on the bar charts on the right.
So moving forward, we will write a report on how to standardize this process, from cleaning the data to designing dashboards to publishing the dashboards on the website. We hope this document could help different departments make meaningful dashboards with their own data and present them to the public. Now that we've created the dashboard, the city could invite people to give feedback on the dashboards in order to improve user experience. To sum it all up, the overall goal of our project is to make information accessible and user-friendly, democratize information flow, and increase transparency. We want these dashboards to help homeowners and businesses make informed decisions. If this is done well, citizens can easily find the information they want online. Using data efficiently benefits the communities and staff and saves resources for the city. Thank you all for listening. We look forward to your questions, ideas, and feedback on this project.
That was awesome. I can start us off with the first question. What motivates the 3 of you to take on this challenge?
Ooh. For me, as a data science major, I really want to work with real life data. And it's not the same learning from textbook and experiencing the challenge yourself. So I really appreciate this opportunity to work with Chula Vista's government data.
In addition to looking at search results, data related to permits, did you talk to any end users or someone who's applying for a permit to more deeply understand what data they think they need and how they think they would use it?
My mom is actually an architect and she interacts with permit a lot. But besides her, we haven't talked to anyone from like end users yet, but I think that is a really important step we should do.
As applications come in, how often is the data set updated?
This is a really important question. That's something we're every quarter, so every 3 months. But we can go anywhere from updating like that or updating daily, depending on what we decide.
Awesome. I think that was the last question. So we'll just go ahead and jump right into the next group. Thank you so much, Team Random Variables. Next, we have the Port of San Diego team. First up, we have Zach and Christine to give some background information. So go ahead.
All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending. I'm Zach Birmingham, Senior Environmental Specialist from the Energy team at the Port of San Diego, and I'm also joined by my colleague, Christine Love from our parking team.
Hello, everyone. I'm Christine Love. I'm the Department Manager for Guest Experiences, the parking department at the Port, and I was thrilled to work with the students on all their innovative ideas for making parking easier for the customer at the Port.
Thanks, Christine. So the idea of participating in the challenge came to us from another colleague on the Energy team, Renee Yarmy, who actually teaches sustainability at UCSD Extension over on campus. So shameless plug, if you get a chance, check out her class. She's really great. We were asked to provide real world challenges to the students as a jumping off point for them to provide creative solutions. The challenge was selected from our team to design the parking lot of the future. Given the recent push to increase electric vehicle adoption, a rising population, and the evolving landscape of San Diego's downtown, how might we design for these changes and accommodate the needs of visitors to the Tidelands? This group of students was fantastic. I'm proud to call them fellow Tritons. They did a really good job and they put together an impressive response. I'm excited for the opportunity for them to share their ideas, and without further delay, I'll go ahead and let them take the stage, and please give them a warm welcome. Thank you.
Awesome. Team Port of ST, you have the floor.
Awesome, thank you. Can you see my screen? I will assume yes. So hello, and thank you all for joining us today. The main ask of our problem statement was how might we create a space that promotes efficient staging of clean air vehicles and inclusion of pedestrian and recreational activities. In other words, how do we balance pedestrian and vehicle needs? For the purpose of this project, we have narrowed our focus on the Port's Tuna Harbor lot, which is one of its highest grossing lots, and how it will look like in the year 2035. So we start by focusing on future trends. After all, this is the parking lot of the future. So our first major is the shift from gas-powered vehicles to electric vehicles. In California, this trend is being catalyzed by a mandate starting 2035, which requires all newly sold cars and passenger trucks to be zero emission. Using an EV scoping study provided by the Port, we project that the Tuna Harbor parking lot will need a total of 27 EV spots with a 16% EV market share in San Diego. An infrastructure solution we also recommend is to adopt the Envision EV Arc. This is a cost-effective and off-grid electrical unit capable of storing and producing its own power for EV charging. Second, we have the introduction of autonomous vehicles. While the reality of self-driving cars may seem distant, autonomous vehicles are expected to become widely available in the next decade. By 2035, autonomous vehicle sales are projected to reach 21 million vehicles sold annually, which means that the Port of San Diego needs to establish infrastructure to accommodate these vehicles. To do this, the Port would need to establish designated pickup and drop-off zones, which can help guide autonomous cars and even autonomous shuttles. The parking lot could also be retrofitted with collaborative parking technology, which would help valet autonomous vehicles to nearby vacant lots. Moving on, we have the increase of rideshare and micromobility. From 2020 to 2030, the global rideshare market is predicted to grow by 20%, from $75 billion to $91 billion annually. Additionally, the valuation of the US micromobility market is anticipated to be $200 billion and $300 billion by 2030. These trends are driven by a consumer demand for eco-friendly, cost-effective, and time-saving transportation. A significant way we're accommodating these trends in our design is with the development of a mobility hub. This mobility hub will allow for different travel options like walking, biking, skating, and scootering to convene. Lastly, as we look beyond the current dependence on car transportation, we've identified the future trend of less parking. Essentially, with the increase of rideshare and micromobility, we want to make sure that our design is not rendered obsolete. This is especially while there will be fewer cars on the road. With this in mind, our design takes on a placemaking perspective, which translates to allocating space for people, not just adding new technology and infrastructure for cars. We will discuss this trend later in our presentation when we address how we plan to activate the current parking space.
We use these trends to identify key features for our proposed recommendations. Our guiding vision draws from the idea that every design decision functions as a performance hypothesis. Mapping our interventions against operational outcomes is at the heart of evaluating our design. And these interventions are geared towards improving operational performance and enhancing individual experiences. As such, we've identified a few key success metrics for each intervention layer, like increased satisfaction for individual well-being, decreased emissions for environmental well-being, and increased time on task for organizational well-being. Up to now, we've outlined what features a future parking lot should have. Now let's explore how we will implement these at the Tuna Harbor lot. To ensure the feasibility and effectiveness of our further recommendations, we first worked to alleviate the lot's current pain points. As is, this lot features one entry and exit point, insufficient bays for buses, and inconvenient rideshare loading areas. In addition, all vehicles must drive around the entirety of the lot before exiting. Each of these factors blur the division between pedestrian, car, and bus spaces, inducing congestion and overall impacting the customer experience. To address these pain points, we recommend reclaiming the bay area above the entry to the slot in order to maximize the available space. This will allow us to balance pedestrian and car needs moving forward. On this reclaimed land, we recommend building a surface lot that can increase Tuna Harbor's total capacity by 38 parking stalls, increasing revenues by $230,000 per year under the current costing model. Given our cost calculations for the reclamation and surface lot development, it would take the port between 10 to 12 years to break even using only the revenue generated by these additional spots. Time to break even could be reduced to 7 to 9 years if the port were to contract with the Army Corps of Engineers to dredge for their fill materials. This new lot would provide the perfect shade-free location to install solar canopies for EV charging. Our design can accommodate up to 6 envisioned EV arcs, translating to 36 EV stalls, which is well above our required long-term estimates. To account for the shift towards microtransit, we can use this new space to build a mobility hub. We will dive deeper into this in a later slide. To optimize customer experience, we've designed our lot with a designated bus bay and specific rideshare areas shown here. To address congestion, we recommend building a roundabout at the entrance to the lot, pictured here. This roundabout gives access to additional rideshare loading areas and alleviates the need to travel through the entire lot. In addition to solving congestion, a car counter in the center of this roundabout can enable collection of occupancy data, which provides many benefits. We dive deeper into all of these recommendations in our report.
Before jumping into our recommendations on how to activate the space, let's expand on how we can use occupancy data to increase lot revenue. Tuna Harbor currently has a 3-hour parking maximum and uses traditional flat rate pricing where visitors pay per hour via an on-site parking meter. This pricing structure has resulted in occupancy trends that shift by season, day of week, time of day, and consistently miss or exceed target occupancy of 85%. When 85% occupancy is exceeded, users will circle until they see a vacant spot, causing congestion and frustration. Luckily, the port's integration of the mobile payment app Passport will facilitate the collection of occupancy data in synergy with our roundabout. This enables the implementation of a dynamic pricing model, where prices will fluctuate in parallel to parking demand. Our model seeks to increase customer turnover by shortening the lot's fixed rate period. Meanwhile, flexible duration maximums accommodate users who wish to stay beyond current time limits. Price adjustments will occur hourly in line with the thresholds to the right and will be conveyed both physically and digitally. Our rate structure is informed by precedents and user context, but should obviously be tested and tweaked to optimize volume and satisfaction. And recalling the future of less parking, we sought to go beyond reducing reliance on cars to largely activating the space for pedestrians. However, Tuna Harbor's lack of scooter corrals, bike parking, and nearby bus stops means micromobility devices are carelessly strewn about and public transit access is severely limited. Looking towards Sandag's 2021 regional plan, we see that Tuna Harbor will have unparalleled transit access, just 14 minutes from a local mobility hub and 18 minutes from a regional mobility hub. With its proximity to Seaport Village, we envision Tuna Harbor as an epicenter of transit access to the port, as well as a focal point in San Diego's transportation network. To that end, we propose the development of a mobility hub. This hub will include ample micromobility accommodations, including scooter corrals, secure bike parking, bike rentals, and repair stations. With wayfinding information, food kiosks, and a space for public art, this hub will complement adjacent hubs and act as a destination in and of itself. We foresee the hub being activated through food festivals, art festivals, and outdoor cinema, amplifying gathering around the unconditional surrender or famous KISS statue. And in the immediate term, we feel that dynamic pricing will sustain the activation of Tuna Harbor more evenly over time. So from expanding the available space to staging cleaner vehicles to activating this lot, our recommendations envision the Tuna Harbor of the future. Thank you for your time, and we're happy to open the floor to questions.
That was great. I have the first initial question. Throughout all of your research, did you ever have an aha moment during the customer discovery process? If so, what was it?
Thank you. So our aha moment came on a site tour when we interviewed important stakeholders, local business workers and port employees who'd been there for over a decade. We realized that it was crucial to address current pain points in addition to designing for future trends. We needed to solve today's problems and anticipate tomorrow's problems concurrently. That was the only way to ensure that our developments improved on current circumstances and also created enduring changes.
Fantastic idea for Tuna Harbor lot. Have you considered bike valets or bike lockers?
Yes, we definitely have. Oh, you could take it. I'll take it. Yeah, we definitely have. So just to reiterate, we want to develop a mobility hub, which is primarily for storage of micromobility, and there would be the bike lockers, and just to facilitate all the transit around Tuna Harbor parking lot.
Awesome. What efforts did you all make to align your recommendations with other related regional initiatives? For example, Sandag's 5 big moves. How do these recommendations align with or offer alternatives to those regional plans?
So one of the new businesses that just launched in San Diego a few years ago is called Circuit, which is an environmentally friendly rideshare service. We actually interviewed I think the president of this circuit, and we were figuring out how to implement their services with our ideas. And so integrating them into this mobility hub, and then integrating San Diego's transit, whether they're shuttles, buses, all of that can be geared towards the mobility hub and Tuna Harbor as a hub for transit in general. Like we mentioned, we also created a designated bus bay for individuals to use. So that would be the perfect place for all of those things to come together.
That was great. And that was also the last question. So great work, Team Port of SD. And now I'll give the floor for the next team. We have the team working with the city of Carlsbad. To give a brief introduction, we have David and David. Go ahead.
Hi, David Graham, Chief Innovation Officer for the City of Carlsbad. I run the Office of Innovation and Economic Development, which is in and of itself a unique collaboration of both the economic development activities of a city combined with our innovation space. So when we speak of innovation, we're talking about many of the things that you're talking about. We're talking about continuous improvement. Our data science and business intelligence manager, Dave Van Gilway, who can't join us today, works for me. We have a citywide approach, but we also are very focused on creating models of innovative things to address the challenges facing our cities, not just in Carlsbad, not just in the region or state, but around the globe. And that's one of the reasons why we engaged with UC San Diego. I've had the pleasure of working with Jacques in other contexts and had the pleasure of working with UC San Diego students for many years. And we love bringing that sort of innovation into the municipal space. In fact, we're on our second tranche of UC San Diego interns. And the amount of work and the things that they're able to bring to bear for us has been incredible. And that's one of the reasons why we focused on this particular project. You know, our city really is focused on innovation, and we're interested in how we can use data and technology to address many of the challenges that are facing our communities. We also recognize that connectivity and integration of those technologies requires a more unified approach than perhaps has happened in the past. You've heard about silos, fragmented data. You've heard about the issues associated with bringing these things together and harmonizing them. Issues such as trying to achieve data fusion and data integration. And through that, we understand that there is an immense amount of power that can be used to improve the lives of our residents, businesses, and visitors. And so as a high overarching perspective, the city passed Connected Carlsbad, which is an inclusive civic innovation roadmap, which is designed really to provide an organized guide of principles for that kind of govern what the city is focused on in this space. And that led us to some of the things that we're focused on here. Next slide. So I'm going to turn things over to the UC San Diego students, but we're very excited of Pulse of the city because it is using multiple different types of technology with a real focus on data. And one of the things that we really encourage the students to do was really think in terms of the issues that we're facing our urban centers and urban areas, and find ways of doing things that, frankly, you'll see it in a minute, talk about crazy ideas first and foremost, because we didn't want to be constrained. We wanted to look at what the art of the possible was. And I must say that this group of students did an incredible job at that. So at that, I will turn things over to the students.
Thank you, David.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marina Kanner, and today I'll be presenting together with my teammate Isaac Ng. And we're joined in the audience by our two other teammates, Reid Pan and Sarah Cassie. And we represent Team Carlsbad is affiliated with the Basements Innovation Sprints program connected with the City of Carlsbad. And our challenge was, how can the city use new and innovative IoTs and existing resources to better measure economic health and serve as a continuous urban planning tool for various areas of the city in real time? We're trying to create a concept using methods to measure the live economic activity of certain business districts and propose a framework that could show real-time movement of people around the city. And today we're going to take you through our journey of creating ideas, introduce the new beach index, which is the idea we were working on, showcase various sample scenarios of how our idea works, and finally explore future expansion of it. Our journey began with understanding the prompt, why to measure economic activity and how it can be helpful for the city, which is to be able to better project budgets for the city. Then we continued with the crazy thoughts. Those were random ideas we're coming up with, having the prompt in mind. We had a lot of those in the process of project development. Some of them, as we did more research, made a lot of sense and appeared appropriate, like Facebook event analysis, and others, like detecting leaf movement made by pedestrians, did not seem that useful after all. While evaluating those ideas, we realized that the ones we especially liked and considered appropriate for the prompt shared many overlapping characteristics. The ideas would measure flow of pedestrian traffic or economic activity, track trends over time, lower costs by reducing measuring area, utilize cities' existing infrastructure, use data that is straightforward and easy to collect and process, and utilize innovative IoTs. And based on those criteria, we decided to move forward and combine two ideas that followed the necessary characteristics and appeared to be most fitting. Facebook events would provide data on local events to see how they may influence or imply business activities and transportation. And the beach index would measure the activity of visitors in tourist areas as a proxy for citywide economic activity. And now I'd like to give a word to my teammate Isaac to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Marina. So how would we define the new beach index? We see it as an AI algorithm that informs the city of Carlsbad on economic activity and transportation flow using an integrated network of sensors and data scraping techniques. As you can see, we've incorporated the data scraping elements of Facebook analysis. And in the context of the original beach index, we are defining the scope of the measuring area to Carlsbad village, which is the downtown area of the city located in this yellow box. As you can see, it's near the beach and it's dotted with shops and restaurants. So clearly it's an important center of tourism to Carlsbad. Some components that we envision as part of the index, firstly is the scraping of Facebook events in the village. What we're looking for is the number of people interested in an event. And based on the interest, this indicates increases to business activity. The idea being the more popular an event is, the more people will be going to the village to patronize businesses there. And during events with high interest, the city may be able to predict influxes to business activity or traffic at the time. Facebook events are also quite unique because they have information on informal events, which are like sales or sports nights. The information we collect can inform the tourism department to perhaps promote these events and support businesses in that way. Something else we're looking at is infrared sensors. They count the number of people passing through key locations such as parking entrances or crosswalks. Again, this is an indicator of economic health, the idea being that the more people it detects, that means there's more consumer activity going on in the area and therefore more spending at the village, because that is what most people do. They shop and they eat. In the long term, this can precisely define periods of economic peaks and valleys. Additionally, peaks and valleys based on like a given week or a season. And additionally, this can inform on the flow of pedestrians around the village. For example, if you look at sensor readings around a parking lot, you can see the direction people go after they park their car. Another sensor we're looking at is audio sensors. They can measure decibels, which is loudness. For example, if there is sudden loudness from a car horn, this may indicate that there is traffic congestion nearby. If it picks up consistent loudness, there can be a crowd of people talking nearby. Perhaps they're enjoying a meal excitedly. Sensors can also measure hertz, which is pitch. So higher pitches of sound may indicate that there are women or children currently visiting the village, for example. Over time, this can identify what demographics tend to visit the village at what times, and the city can use that information to inform businesses that cater to specific groups. And that's what we have as our index. But we've been looking at each individual component by itself. In the context of the index, though, these data sets aren't completely independent of each other, and that is kind of the beauty of the beach index. Each component can enhance and reinforce other components to produce a robust real-time analysis unique to the conditions of Carlsbad. For example, from Facebook, we have the location, date, and number of people interested in a particular event. The city can anticipate an increase in business activity around the time and location of that event, but there's no guarantee that everyone interested will actually go. So attendance can be verified or refuted by IR and audio sensors tracking increases and decreases on-site real time. If you repeat this process of data collection over weeks and months, and you might begin noticing trends of what types of events people consider worth traveling to Carlsbad for. This gives direction to the city on what specific businesses or events to promote and support, knowing soundly that this is an effective generator of economic activity. This intelligent integration of multiple sensor inputs creates one of the most comprehensive and robust artificial intelligence model that has yet to be done in the realm of city planning. And there are also various other scenarios that the index can also interpret. For example, if it detects low movement and quietness, perhaps this indicates there's some undesirable situation going on, such as poor road conditions or there's not enough promotion of businesses. High movement and quietness, that can indicate maybe it's commuting time. Everyone's just minding their own business silently, and they're only coming to the village for quick conveniences. They're coming in, getting their coffee, and getting out. Low movement and loudness, that can imply that people are enjoying the village while socially distant during a pandemic. It can also imply traffic congestion, and perhaps the city can notify nearby drivers like delivery people to make detours and to expedite their deliveries. High movement and loudness, this can indicate there's a special event, holiday, or a particularly lovely day going on, where tourists and families can spend lots of time and money for leisure. The beach algorithm is a smart, living, and adaptive algorithm, and that's That's the beauty of it. It thrives off of learning from the data it processes. And as we collect more data over time and even add new sources such as humidity and air quality, the pool of data is continually enriched, adding insightful, nuanced, and reliable analytical interpretations. The most immediate next steps we see would involve a process of community engagement and really understanding the needs and concerns of the community and its various stakeholders. And with that, we can evolve the beach index to become more useful and purposeful for those needs. There should also be a process of policy review and policy formulation, especially regarding privacy and protection of privacy when it comes to these sensors. And finally, then can begin the development of implementing the algorithm and its sensors. Before we'd like to move on to the Q&A, we'd like to give a special thanks to all these wonderful people that have provided their guidance, feedback, and support through our research. David Graham, Matt Stanford, David Van Gilway, Joseph Stewart of Carlsbad, and also Jacques here at the basement. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for that great presentation. I'll have the first question, which is, what is one thing that you learned from this experience?
I think as an economics student, discussions on economic health are frequent in my classes, but this experience gave me a whole new outlook on measuring economic health because of the specificity of the city of Carlsbad and our attempts to measure the pulse of the city in real time.
That's awesome. Maybe each of you could answer that question.
For me, I think I'm an urban studies and planning major, and sometimes when we study cities, it's very like independent. Like we learn about one component. But over here, I think like working in the actual, like with an actual real city, we start to realize that there's a lot of moving parts. Everything's just kind of interconnected. And I'm really glad that we got to explore and connect all these different parts and try to find valuable data from all those different components.
That's great. And Marina?
I think for me, it was similar to Isaac because it was really interesting to work specifically with the city and try to interconnect different aspects of the system. And I think it was also really interesting to think about ways of measuring economic health, and interpreting the possible ways was a very good experience for me too.
Awesome. Let's wait to see if there's any more questions. We'll wait like one more minute and then we can move on. That was great. We have one question coming in from the chat. How do you determine if a data source is irrelevant or invalidates another data source?
So we actually, while we were trying to consolidate what our index and measuring mechanism would consist of, when we were trying to figure that out, we actually went through a lot of data sources. Like you might have seen a glimpse of it on our crazy cost slide. Like we went through job posting activity and so many other different sources as well. I think at the end of the day, since we were trying to cater it to the city of Carlsbad, we tried to see whether it was relevant for the city and the economy of the city specifically when we were trying to pick and choose. And then after that, we also tried to see if the components of our index that we had, whether they all fit together and complemented each other to give us informative data or not. So yeah, that's how we ended up choosing our data sources.
Awesome. And with that question, we'll go ahead and move on to the next team. Great job, Carlsbaddies. Up next, we have the team from the San Diego Wildlife Alliance. So first up, we have Luisa Radosevich speaking as a brief overview. Go ahead, Luisa. Okay, it seems that Luisa isn't here right now, so we'll just go on ahead with the team presentation. So Team Zuber, go ahead, you have the floor.
All right, hello, my name is Anne and I'm from Team Zuber. And to give a little rundown of what our project is about, we've been working with the San Diego Zoo for the past 6 months on a machine learning project to automate tracking of elephants. And this is our team made up of 4 undergraduates from UCSD. I have myself, Anne Lynch. We also have Seth Littman, Michael Poon, and June Ha. So the problem that the zoo came to us with is that caretaking for elephants is very time consuming and it entails a lot of different things. Just to name a few: injury and illness detection, movement tracking, food consumption, and mood tracking. And we have decided to focus on movement tracking in this project. And the current state of monitoring elephants through video is very time consuming because the zookeepers do it manually and there's no collection of data. Now, our solution to this problem is creating an algorithm that automates the process of tracking movement. It's non-invasive and it collects and presents data in an efficient manner as shown on the right in this heat map. And previously, the zoo has put pedometers on elephants using bracelets, but that's invasive and I'm sure the elephants don't really like that. So our model does not touch the elephants at all. It just uses cameras. And now here's an overview of how we built this model and how it works. So we use the YOLO v5 algorithm made for real-time object detection. And we found that the generic model wasn't very accurate. So we built a custom model for tracking the elephants at the zoo. So it's trained with images from the zoo and it was built to work at specifically their habitats. And our team created a Windows application to analyze and display this information.
Yeah, so here we can see an example of our custom model at work. The number next to the elephant represents the confidence that this is the elephant and it's at this location. So as you can see, we're at a very high percentage. Our model is very well tailored to the elephant's exhibits. It gives us really good data. And so now you can see this actually uses an older model that we had that was a little bit more generic, but this is kind of how we actually turn the data from our model into location on a heat map. So as you can see on the left, we have Shaba and she's walking across the exhibit. And as she's walking, it's updating the location on the heat map. And then on the right, we have Mary and she's just kind of standing there for a while. And so we can see on the right side, not only do we have a heat map that does it live, but we also have one that will show you the density of where the elephants have been. So you can see the path that Shaba took is in red, but then Mary's spot is in yellow because she was there for quite a while during this video. Mary, unfortunately, she has a habit, we call it a stereotypy of swaying. And the zookeepers were really interested in knowing how often she was swaying, how much she was swaying, because it's pretty indicative of her health. So this heat map here will give a good indication of that swaying motion. And that's pretty important for the zoo. So now we go on to how do we actually give this data to the zookeepers. And we created this GUI that displays it in a very easy fashion. So you can see that what you do is you upload an MP4 video of the cameras, you upload the corresponding heat map, and then you choose which camera it is. The choosing will change a lot of things. It'll give you the correct size of the density matrix. It'll change the pixel to feet conversion, and it also change how it projects the image, the location of the elephant on the video image in that 2D space to the 2D space looking down onto the map. because all those are different numbers. And then you can press generate heat map and it will give you processing percentage and the time. You can also stop it early if you don't have as much time, and it'll just go through the data that it's already gone through. So you can see that for a video, this is a video that happened at the Yard 3 overlook where one of the elephants was walking by. You can see that path of motion. And in our newest version, it'll save the heat map for you, and it'll also tell you some analysis of how far the elephant walked and how much time it was spent moving, how much time was stationary. Those are both pretty important for elephant health. Elephants need to move around a lot, specifically to keep the calluses on their feet, because that's one of the ways that they can have healthy feet is they continue moving and developing those calluses. Yeah, and so here we can see, this is a very technical flow diagram of how this all works. So we take videos of the elephants and get those into video files. Now in the future, we'll talk about this in our future section, but in the future, we might want to change it from video files to actually integrating into the IP stream from the camera, so we can just stream it straight from the camera. Then from that, our application, it gets the frame, so it goes frame by frame, puts that into our custom YOLO model to get the location of the elephant in that video. And then there's a kind of step that's not really shown, but that's projecting that onto the top-down location, which is actually kind of, it's a complex, interesting issue of how you get the location of the elephant on the video to the map. But then it takes that location, puts it in the heat maps. It'll take a movement anchor every X frames. And then using that anchor, you can calculate both, is this the same elephant or is this a different elephant? And then also, if it is the same elephant, well, how much distance did it travel since the movement anchor was taken? Then you can add up all that distance. You can see, well, what frames were the elephant moving? And then you can put that data together to get a rough estimate of the distance and then a pretty accurate estimate of the time spent walking.
So we've come very far in this project. Our team started out with just an idea that we implemented into a working prototype that the zoo has now tested out and given us feedback on, but there's still a lot of more places to go with this project. And we do have some future predictions and suggestions for the zoo and for future student teams. They could integrate this application directly into the camera stream instead of having that file upload, and also could modify it to analyze multiple videos simultaneously, as well as make the model individualized to each elephant instead of just the generic elephants at the zoo. And also it'd be very possible to make a similar model for other animal exhibits using the same format, as well as expanding into nighttime footage, because we've been working with daytime footage. And we also did some competitions this year. Our team was a semifinalist of the 2021 Triton Innovation Challenge, hosted by the Rady School of Management at UCSD. And we were also the first place winner of San Diego's ISPE 2021 poster competition. And our team would love to thank the San Diego Zoo for being amazing partners. And I'd like to thank my other students on our team for being so amazing. And I've definitely gained a lot from this project. So thank you to Jacques, the zoo, and the Zuber team.
That was awesome. Thanks so much. Before we go on to a quick Q&A session, we're just going to have Luisa Radosevich go ahead with her quick overview. She wasn't able to give it prior. So Luisa, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Luisa Radosevich. I'm a wildlife welfare specialist with the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance. So part of my role is using animal behavior and natural history as a way to enhance animal care strategies, feeding strategies, and habitat design. And so our team challenged the students to develop a machine learning program to be able to observe and analyze animal behavior in real time. Wildlife behavior is really a critical component of assessing animal welfare and being able to improve animal care. But oftentimes behavioral studies can be very time consuming and labor intensive and require a lot of training of observers. So it can take quite a bit of time. So having some sort of program to be able to analyze data in real time and tell us where and how the animals are spending their time is really critical to our ability to enhance animal care. The students have really blown us away with their ability to take this challenge and go above and beyond. They have this technical ability and ingenuity that our team doesn't necessarily have. As animal care professionals, we were able to collaborate with the team with our expertise in behavior and natural history and animal care. And then the team was able to contribute with their tech perspective and fresh perspective. So it was really a pleasure for us to be able to work with the team. We've gotten a chance to start to play around with the machine learning program, and we're really excited to be able to use it for some of our day-to-day care and also just generally enhancing welfare. So we're really excited and proud for the team.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Louisa. Now let's skip ahead to a quick Q&A. For the first question, for the team, what was the most challenging thing that you experienced during your process?
Other team members can also speak to this, but I believe the biggest challenge for our team was the coding part, because none of us are computer science majors, and that's not what our focus is on. So that was at least the most difficult part for me.
Yeah, and I would say for me, the most difficult part was getting the data from the video into processing something that we could actually put into another algorithm. It's kind of just like getting into the weeds of, how do these videos, what are they made up of? How can we turn them into like data that we can utilize in languages that we're kind of familiar with? So that was difficult for me.
I had to say about the same for me as well, just mainly learning all the different type of object detection programs there are. And like Anne said, we're not really computer science majors, so there's a lot of self-learning on like how to program it to ourselves.
Yeah, that's great that you all were able to progress past that. For our next question, incredible work. Do you think this technology can be used in marine or other water wildlife, such as projects at Scripps?
Yes, I think it definitely has the possibility to be integrated into the wild, except for animals that possibly blend into their background. That would be a little bit more difficult, and especially smaller animals could be more difficult. But I think with enough training, you could train the YOLO model to detect any animal.
Awesome. And how large of a video can be uploaded?
Well, actually, you can upload any size of video because it doesn't actually take the video file and then copy it to some other directory. It'll just stream it directly from wherever it is on your hard drive. So, possibly any size file.
Did you consider how your monitoring technology to analyze behavior at the zoo might also support the zoo's conservancy mission beyond the zoo's walls? So for example, in the wild or in places where animals are endangered?
Yes, we have considered how it applies to the wild and outside of zoo settings, and we had the pleasure of meeting with some professionals. We met with the president of the Global Conservation Force, who focuses on poaching and saving elephants in the wild. So we got a good perspective of how our project can help not only elephants in the zoo, but also elephants in the wild.
Wonderful. And that is our last question. So that concludes our student presentations. Wonderful job to all of our basement students. As you all can see, they put in a lot of work and did an excellent job. All right, so now I'm going to introduce Jacques Shirazi, who is head of the entrepreneurial part of the basement, as well as part of the Blackstone Launchpad program, and he'll explain a few more ways to get involved with innovation sprints.
All right, thank you, Tanvi. So first of all, thank you to all the partners. Amazing to work with all these amazing community partners over the last several months. We hope that the solution that the student provided today and the engagement they provided with you was very insightful and hopefully give you new ideas and new ways to rethink the challenges you have within your organization. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for the students to really excel outside the academic requirements at university and really have a chance to experience what it's like to work on real challenges and apply those amazing skills they're learning in school. We are looking to offer this program again next year in the winter. So for all of you that are watching this webinar and are interested to work with us, we are looking for problem statements. Happy to work with you. Please feel free to email me directly and I'll be happy to set up a time and understand how we can make one of your challenge something that students could really tackle over 2 quarters. That will be next year. I also want to invite all the students that are watching this program and are interested to participate. We will have an application for next cohort, which will start in January. The application will open in late fall. So I invite you to stay tuned with us and stay in touch with all our social media and be aware when we announce the new cohort. So again, I want to thank all the community partners for your involvement and time and dedication over the last several months. I also want to thank the mentors as well as the teams for putting a lot of effort above and beyond all your academic requirements. And thank you everyone for watching this, this showcase today. Tanvi, I turn it back to you.
Awesome. I just wanted to give a quick thank you to this year's partners. We all heard a little bit from some of the representatives as well as the teams that they supported. So thank you to all of them from us at the basement as well as all of the students. And then thank you to everybody who contributed. Yeah, these are the names of all the people that spoke today as well as people on the basement team. So thank you to all of them. And then finally, congratulations to the students of the cohort that just presented. We all really enjoyed watching your presentations. Finally, we have our zoo tickets giveaway winner. So for this one, it's going to be Kaiki Campana. Congratulations. Thank you so much for attending our event. And we're pleased to present you with some zoo tickets. And then finally, a quick reminder to stay connected with the UCSD basement, either through all the social medias, which all are the same at UCSD basement, as well as the website, thebasement.ucsd.edu. Thank you so much.